Hello, my very dear Cancers. This is your reading for the week of August 17th, or when you hear it and it resonates. And of course, Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, and it will not be for everybody. Cancer, the first thing that I touched into when I started working with your energy was this real sense of pink energy coming from my heart, coming from spirit, towards you as an appreciation and an acknowledgement of how hard you have worked since you were little to be able to take care of your own emotions, because you have not had a lot of guides. I'm sure there's probably a rare few of you who have, but most of you have probably not had people who understood how your emotions worked and how your mind worked. Because when you are that empathic, which many of you are, there's a lot more stimulation than you may know how to handle. Now, you might find yourself, and I suspect this is true for many of you, that you have sort of maybe considered yourself weak or inefficient or inept at being able to manage life. But here's the thing. Managing life really ultimately means managing ourselves. And what Spirit would like you to know is you have done a brilliant job in a lot of cases on how to manage yourself. But let's break it down into some of the things you might be criticizing yourself for. You might be criticizing yourself for being antisocial, for being easily overwhelmed, for not wanting to get involved in things, for not taking care of yourself, for being a pushover, for constantly being the one that's on hyper alert to make sure that everything's all right. It could be any of those things. It could be shutting yourself away. It could be having relationship and then another one, and then going, oh, this third time is not a charm. Third time I'm out, and that's it. And you notice the pattern and you go, why didn't I see that before? So there are all these different things that you could be calling yourself for. But Spirit is saying, no. They would like you to take a break from fixing yourself. They would, however, like to point out some of the ways that you have probably worked and maybe not even identified, because this is a formula that you can take into your future. And it is this. There is a very, very fine line between fear, because fear is the first card that came up with you. There is a very fine line between fear and excitement. The fear aspect is quite natural as a Cancer to have that quality of needing to protect yourself, which is ultimately is about survival and fear. But as the Course in Miracles says, fear is a prayer for what we don't want. So now you've also got the can't and won't card, and that really to me says, okay, well, one is, oh no, I'm not capable, and the other one is, no, I won't. So not capable is kind of powerless. I won't is a choice, it's a decision, and you also get the choice card. I'm reminded of something I did. I have Cancer in my chart in a key position when I was a kid, and incredibly shy and introverted, to the point where I was sort of paralyzed. We'd moved to a city. I wasn't comfortable, didn't like taking the buses, and I realized that I was becoming more and more cloistered in my own anxiety. So I said, okay, I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? And this is the key, because fear often presents us like just a wall that creates anxiety, but we haven't broken down what the elements are around that. And once you start pulling it apart, it ceases to be this wall that stops you, and it becomes something that you start having a relationship with, because you're identifying the nuances to the energy. So in my case, it was, we were living in a suburb of Toronto. It was, well, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of looking stupid. I'm afraid of being seen in X, Y, Z. I'm afraid of getting lost. I'm afraid of getting stranded. We came from a very tiny town. And so for me, when I looked at this, it was, well, okay, I don't want to be cloistered in my anxiety, so I need to learn how to get around the city. How can I do that in a way where I'm not going to fear being stranded. Well, I'm going to go with a certain amount of money in my wallet, so wherever I go, I can take a cab back if I get lost. Well, I'm afraid of looking stupid. Well, okay, but do I feel people are stupid when they ask me for directions? No, I don't, not at all. I wish to be helpful. Well, what about if I just assume that people will be helpful, and even if I look silly, well, it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to die. I'm still going to get the information I need. So that was a few things that I will share with you just as an idea of how you can break it down. And then each step of the way, when I was doing this at the age of, I know it sounds ridiculous, but at the age of 15, I was still that scared and nervous. I was able in those moments when I would feel the anxiety to come up, I would go, oh yeah, that's connected with that aspect of fear. Oh yeah, that's connected with that. And isn't it exciting that I've taken care of myself and I am choosing now to let myself go through this structure I've created in order to deal with my fear in a kind way, where I get to be curious about how to handle myself rather than critical about what felt like restrictions, because all of a sudden I was taking on what the restrictions were. So it was not about fixing myself. It was about choosing in that moment to not be limited by my fear, to identify what the fears were, and to find ways to address each single one. Now, granted, that seems like a very simple thing. To me, as a 15-year-old coming from a very small town and being extremely introverted, it was a huge deal. And it changed my life, because once you do that, you can reapply that. It doesn't mean I always did it easily. It didn't mean I didn't often have indigestion from the anxiety. But again, it's a progressive thing, and the more you do it, the more you build your confidence. The more you learn how to choose, the more empowered you become. And the more you break down the fears that are stopping you, the more you can choose how you wish to deal with those nuances. And you may choose not to, and that's okay too. It's all in your own timing. But this is something to help open it up for you, Cancer, because we know with all the empathy that you've got, with everything that's going on now, and with all of the work that you've done to start seeing yourself in a different light, underlying it, fear is a core belief that can stop any sign. This is a way for you to be able to address it in really practical ways and create more confidence and more of a sense of empowerment. Yes, you can, but do you want to? That's your motto. Yes, I can, but do I want to? I'm leaving you with that. Much love, Cancers. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching, and I appreciate your comments. I do read all of them. So thank you, and take care. Have fun.